না, 1 মিনিট। এক মিনিট, আমি বলে দিচ্ছি, 1 মিনিট। Start. But as in case of end of the script are your own personal rights. This is the conflict of the community. As advertisement protect people, and it is not put into practice, it does not benefit anyone. Our first lessons of responsibility are taught by our family, but it is in our educational institution that we first start taking a common shape. Before we step into the world of adulthood, it is clear, guided by our alumni manual, that we must learn the lessons of diligence, obligation, and of course responsibility. Our school organizes seminars consistently for our students to gain information and be associated with the world of education. Personal development helps students to gain and understand the life-changing skills, and it will focus primarily on important aspects. To us, the students of Phillips School of Education, our alumni plays a crucial role in grooming us into responsible citizens of tomorrow. With that being said, we are assembled here today on an occasion of an interactive session. We have with us today our respected guests, who have shared their valuable time to restore their business on us and be a part of the session. I, Shimala Ashar, welcome all of you to this important conference. While we are glad to have you all here, I would like to extend a special welcome to our guest of honor, Dr. Shishwar, who will be speaking with us. We also welcome our mentors, Mr. Pokthon, Mr. Sharada Prasad Namata, Mr. Shankar Bharti, Mr. Karthik Pratim Roy, Mr. Kalyan Banerjee, Mr. Harikara Gupta, Mr. Bharat Yagmi, and Dr. Rashid. Along with them are our dear principal, our school committee members, our beloved teacher and students. I ensure that the day today will be profitable and the next moments will be enjoyable and fruitful for everyone. We are privileged and proud to have you all with us here. We will begin the ceremony with an invocation to knowledge through a musical rendition from Pavitra Pradyumna Selva. The next choir will sing Alokit Devi Baba Dharayate. Thank you very much. Thank you for this part. For your wonderful musical rendition. As we are all introduced, such a beautiful person, Professor Kushik. Let us now shed some light on the journey of his life. Born in Kolkata, India, Professor Basu completed his early education from St. Xavier's Collegiate School, Kolkata. After the completion of his schooling, he was caught in dilemma, as he mentions in his autobiographical essay, that his father wanted him to study physics, but as those were revolutionary times, he wanted to study science. He finally settled in economics, which was between physics and math. After earning his master's degree from London School of Economics, Professor Basu was supposed to move to England to study law and take over his father's legal practice. But he had already fallen in love with deductive reasoning and logic, along with Amartya Sen's work, which kept him back in London School of Economics, where he further completed his PhD in the span of years between 1974 to 1976. He has since received honorary doctorates from numerous other universities. Before his appointment as the World Bank's chief economist, Dr. Basu was the chief economist advisor to India's Ministry of Finance. On 5th September 2012, he was appointed as the chief economist at the World Bank. His childhood interest in Indian geometry found expression and drew attention when he was the chief economist at the World Bank. He carried on with the publishing of a paper giving a new proof of the Pythagoras theorem via a property of isosceles triangles. Now, to all the gamers out there, he created Ludo, which is a competitive two-player version of Sudoku. He seems to be interested in games just like us, right? Dr. Basu currently teaches at Cornell University. Concluding his biography, I want to say that there is always a lot to learn from the journey of his life. After making it more than once in the past and reflecting on the incredible journey of his life for this speech, or maybe because of my immense interest in knowing about it, I still cannot believe that how great of a person he is, and I still cannot believe that I am once again with all my friends getting this golden opportunity to live these unforgettable moments with him in person. Now I would like to hand over the microphone to my friend Ankit and Purva, who will continue with the program. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So now we will start in begin the session of question and answer, which we all are waiting for with waited. The first question is to start.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, my name is Arthur from class 9. Sir, my question is that we have always studied that India is a developing nation. So when can we expect India to join the League of Developed
Is this picking up or should I?
Yes.
You know, this is a wonderful question, something for all of us to think of and try to speculate. It is difficult. Anything into the future, I believe, we always have to entertain doubt. You can never be certain. It is foolish to be certain about the future. India's trajectory, and I will talk a little bit about this in the evening. Developed country, developing countries, by the way, the World Bank has created actual formal cutoffs. If your per capita income is less than this, you are a low income country. And then there are two categories of middle income country, lower middle income and higher middle income. India is formally a lower middle income country. And then there is the high income country. It's very difficult to guess because I'll give you a bit of a historical example. Around 1960, when India was a low income country and South Korea was a low income country, we were both low income countries. There are American documents saying that India will quickly become a high income country, but South Korea is going to remain poor. But history played out very differently. By 1990, South Korea was among the richest countries in the world. India was still hovering there. But India is moving. It started around 1992, 1993, the growth picked up and India is growing. And so it will probably become a high income country at some point. But another thing I should stress that our obsession with high income, which we place a lot of importance to, we should also have to take a broader view. And this is something that there is something called the Human Development Index, which was Omurto Sen, who's my professor, played a role with the United Nations to define development in a broader way in terms of standard of living. Even there, India is not at the top or anywhere near that. But our aim should be that broader development, and when India can become that, but it remains a speculation. And I will be talking at length in the evening about the possibilities. Thank you.
Thank you for the answer, sir. My next question is from Shada.
Good morning, sir. My name is Shahab Ahmed and I'm from class 9. So, sir, my question was that as I am not very fond of academics, sir, in which other way should I go to achieve success in my life?
Good question and difficult question. If the questions keep becoming difficult like this, I'll have a tough time. You know, not fond of academics is fine. Fortunately, life has just so many options, so many different kinds of skills and talents. And I should tell you that in school, I was a very bad student because I think my interests were very focused interests. And very luckily, I discovered those much later. But in my class and all, I was a very bad student. So you're not being interested in academics, you'll have to, of course, find some interest. But life has so many opportunities from art. If you enjoy art, because I do enjoy art as a hobby, if you enjoy that, if you enjoy music, if you enjoy entrepreneurship, life has a whole range of opportunities. So the fact that academics does not interest you should not bother you. But one more thing, academics, keep it up for a while more because I found my academic interest, which was very low through school and even college, suddenly got sparked at a very late stage. So don't give up. Keep it for a while, and if you still don't get interested, go into some other field. Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to find somebody.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Soman Salkar from class 9. I do not like, my question is that I do not like studying history. So how can I connect it with other subject to make it more interesting?
History, you said. So once again, it is a very similar concern that one particular discipline does not interest you. And well, I have to say you have to be practical. In school and in college, there are certain required fields. So whether you like it or not, you have to force yourself and do it so that you clear the minimum amount. Then gradually you will discover. History also, I personally find I have quirky interests. Some bits of history interest me a lot, others don't. So again, don't give up, keep it up. And once again, like the previous question which your classmate asked, just wait to see where your interests are. And once again, the hope lies. Also, another thing about human intelligence is so different. We think of this person as intelligent, that person as not intelligent, but the two people can be intelligent in very different ways. So this also you will discover as you're going into life. So yes, if you ultimately don't get interested in history, do without that, but there'll be other fields. Okay.
Thank you, sir. It would be useful for all the students and everyone here. And I would like to call next Ayush.
Sir, I like listening to music while I study. So does it really help or pretty much?
Good question, because among my sisters, there was one sister who would always have music when she studied. My youngest sister, she lives in Calcutta, but she was actually a pretty good student. And she would insist that that almost created a wall from everything else in the world. So she studied better when there was a little bit of music on. So I feel that is fine to have the music on, and that creates a wall. For me, I'm not good at doing two things at a time. So if I have music on, either I'll listen to the music and not pay any attention to the work I'm doing, or I'll ignore the music altogether. So again, human minds are different kind. If you enjoy music, put it on. Don't put it on so loud that your parents complain that they can't do their work. But put it on and do your work. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Very much for the music. Really helpful for them. My next question is to Anna.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Mohammed. Sir, could you please give us some book recommendations which I would enjoy reading as a teacher and also find useful?
I'm thinking from my own experience. Growing up in Kolkata, Rabindranath was, you can get it at different levels. So it was a very early influence for me. Like most people growing up in Bengal, I would read a lot. But amongst the sort of other writers, one again for me, I think was very important is Sherlock Holmes stories, because the deductive logic that you begin to see in Sherlock Holmes is almost like learning geometry or algebra, because you're picking up deductive logic through that. So I used to always like detective stories, and the main reason was the deduction in there. So Agatha Christie, Sherlock Holmes would be very nice. I would also say poetry has a certain kind of, starts up certain parts of the brain which other kinds of readings do not do. So try to keep reading up on poetry as well. Okay. Yeah. And you, of course, showed me a lot of science experiments, so you have interest in science. So you get readings in that as well. And late in school, I should tell you, a big influence on me, bit of a radical writing, Bertrand Russell, very critical of his own society, own religion, questioning everything. I discovered Russell late in school, very big influence for me. Influence not that I picked up what he told me to learn, but he told me that you must question everything you're being taught, and that is, I think, an important lesson.
My next question is from Choktoshi.
afternoon, sir. I'm Santoshi from grade 9. And my question to you today is, would you give us some suggestions about handling parental expectations and academic pressure?
So you're testing my ability from economics to mathematics to counseling. So now this is counseling. Parental expectations, there's a bit of a reversal also. So the way your parents will instruct you to do things and have high expectations, you can also gently talk to them, giving your suggestions about their expectations and the need to not to have excessive expectations. And you see, for parents also, you must understand that you have to understand, even if you disagree with them, that for parents, children are a source of great hope. So a lot of your own hopes you have in your children. So it is true that at times parents are very unrealistic in what they push their children for. At times it is distressing for the children to have that. But if you are also understanding of them the way you want them to be understanding of you, when they are asking for something excessive, yes, you try to gently tell them. If they don't understand, tell your own mind that I must understand their expectations and deal with that. But that's all I can say. But generally, the parental children relationship is founded in so much love that despite the love getting very different kinds of expression, you know that deep down that is there and that always helps.
Thank you, sir, for the lovely response. Now I would like to call on. Sorry, Artin.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Avinika from grade 9. Today, I would like to ask you that how can India's youth, someone as young as me, contribute to the economy?
How can you contribute to the economy? At this point of time, a direct contribution to the economy is not something you just by living your life, doing your studies well, trying to get ahead in school, you are a part of the huge agenda that India has. Doing that well is a contribution. Beyond that, at this stage, you can't do anything. But as you go further into life, first of all, you must remember every individual is a small part of a massive system, which is the Indian economy. So no matter who you are, your contribution will be a tiny part of it, but you can still begin to do. You know, the thing that I was telling earlier, I think Mohua was the name, if I get that right. Creative ideas is where a country's future lies. And this actually, in this school, I don't have to emphasize too much. Even contesting standard ideas, what I like about the Phoenix School is it is a school really among the best creative schools, teaching you to question, teaching you to reach out. You do it respectfully, but you question everything. That is the start of the creative process. And I think the future of the world will, in countries, will depend on the countries that are the most creative countries. Again, in the evening, I'll give you examples historically of countries which did nurture the creative urge and did well. So at this stage, you're building up towards a later stage when you'll work towards helping the country. Okay, good.
Thank you very much, sir. My next question is from Nilash. Good afternoon, sir. I'm Nilash. I'm from class 9. I wanted to ask you, how do you define success in life other than doing well in academics?
Give me your name. Can you repeat the question for
My
that?
question was, how sir would like to define success in life other than doing well in academics?
Lakshi, you know, academics is of course whatever is your career, you try to do well in that. So it is true that my career is in academics and research, and I try to do better and better and contribute to that. But success is such a relative word. that there are different people who aspire to different things. And also through life, we very often don't realize that what you aspire to can change through life, and it is good to aspire to for good things. I, as a researcher, as an academic, it is true that my main interest is in new ideas, new research. But I try to keep somewhere inside me that in the end, all of us have a huge responsibility to society. And nothing is really as satisfying as knowing that you've made a small contribution for people to think better, to do nice, and also to reach out to other people. There is a word in English, empathy. Empathy is a bit like sympathy, but a bit more. The ability to put yourself in the shoes of someone else and think a bit like that person so that you can contribute to that. So yes, we have many different aspirations, and as an academic, I try that. If you become something else, if you're a person in politics, I hope that will not happen. But if you are, you will aspire to something else. Depending on what you are, you aspire to different things. But for all of us to keep an aspiration for the collectivity of society, and I must emphasize that for me, society is not defined by just your nationality or religion or caste. Society is the larger human identity. And we want to contribute to the happiness of human beings wherever they are. And this you see in the writings of Rabindranath Tagore beautifully coming out, which does touch me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for this inspiring answer. The next question is from Sukhdev.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Sudhir. My question is that the government is giving grants to the economically weaker people. Then how is the cost of the articles used really so high?
Can we have a repetition?
Sir, the government is giving grants to the economically weaker people. Then why the cost of articles used really so high?
Government is giving grants to better off people and cost of no. What was the question?
Economically poorer people. Government is giving grants
Oh.
for the economically poorer people, but the cost of the things is quite high. That is same for everyone.
I get it. It's a very difficult economics question. You have to sit down for 1 hour now for me to answer this. I'm joking. It is a difficult question. You know, the cost increase that is happening now, really the reason for that is not inside India. This is a bit of a global phenomenon. And we understand a little bit how it's happening, but it's happening all over. But we need to react better in India to protect the poor. In India, one thing is the inequality is just totally out of control, the levels of inequality. And there I do feel there's a huge responsibility on the part of the government to reach out to the poor. The controlling inflation and the price increase, you try, you won't be able to do it anything very quickly, but you have to support the poor and the bottom end much more directly. Another problem which is becoming very big in India is unemployment, especially unemployment among the young people. And you know, if you're unemployed, even if government gives you some little dole, with prices rising, it gets very, very hard. So the situation right now is, it is true that it's happening because of the international situation. You probably know that in Ukraine, there is a war going on, which is stopping a lot of food from exiting from there. And fertilizers are stuck there. And when that happens, price begins to rise all over the world. So that is the problem, but there needs to be much more direct action to help the poor and help people find jobs and work. Not enough is happening on that, unfortunately. Yeah.
That was really informative. Now, my next question is from Sujal.
Good morning, sir. My name is Sujay from class 9. My question is that we are always been told to do engineering and medical as a profession. How can the Indian education system escape from this stereotype?
Yeah. What do I say? This is, of course, a conventional thinking. And at one level, these are very safe careers. Once you've got your degree and you get a job, you've got a flaw through life, so I understand that. But my advice to this is don't push yourself too early to make up your mind about what career you do want to get into. And later on, to look for your own creative abilities, wherever they are, what you're good at, and then make that choice. I know that there'll be societal pressure for what you do. That, as was pointed out, because my father was a lawyer and a lot of my relatives were lawyers. Right from when I was small, it was more or less decided I would do law, and I also wanted to do law when I was small. Then much later, when I was doing my master's, MA, MSc in London, I suddenly discovered the world of research and ideas. And I was just very lucky. I found something that I was interested in. I can also give you another personal example of a failure which turned out to be very lucky for me. When I was doing my PhD, the World Bank recruits bureaucrats. These are called young professionals. You'll be a bureaucrat in the World Bank all your life. I was thinking it's a very good job. You get a very good pay, all through life you're secure. I applied for this job as young professionals, like a lot of middle class Indians would do. And I was called for the final interview. I was very excited. They chose few people. My parents were excited that I would get a World Bank job, and all my life I would be there. I failed it. I failed the exam, didn't get the job. And I think it is one of the luckiest things that happened to me. To be a bureaucrat in a World Bank, sitting in an office somewhere in Washington, for me would have been a miserable life. I would get a very good pay, much better than I got as a professor. But I think for me, it would be a miserable life. It was pure luck I didn't get it. Then I was already founding and finding research areas, and that was luck. So keep up the interest for medicine, engineering, but keep your eyes open for electric. Our answer. Questions are getting more and more difficult, but let me try and give you Ariba. It's again speculation. I believe that this is a general view that human knowledge, with all the things we know, is a tiny bit. So who knows? We don't know. We are unsure about what it could be. But here's my broad expectation. I was very hopeful about India, I have to say, till a few years ago. I'm less hopeful now. But my own expectation is India has fundamental society is getting very polarized. I'm one group, you're another group. That's not the way of society is. That's a become a global problem. It's happening all. India's economy is going through a very bad. So right now it is not very good. But again, in India, creative ability is very high. Some people in our education system, and non-income school is really an epitome of that, where your creative abilities are being learned. Another indicator, to if you look at the national income, the meaning of national income, the whole nation's total income. In every country, we measure what fraction of it is investment. Investment is not apples and oranges and clothes which we eat and use. Investment is bridges, factories. We don't directly consume them, but that's the total amount of investment which is used to produce things which we will consume. If you look at investment as a share of national income, India's investment is pretty high. It has come down a little bit over the last 8 years, but investment to GDP national income ratio is very high. And that is also a very big driver of a country's growth. So my hope again lies that though India is going through a very difficult patch, India has lots of fundamental strengths, and I remain optimistic for the long run. So I don't know what will happen over the next few years, but you're giving me a 20-year period, right? Within that, it will again come up and be doing very, very well, I think.
Thank you, sir. We treasure this memory for the rest of our life. Now it's time to give you something. And I would like to invite my friend Arush to present a humble comment on all our behalves.
Sir, this is a red letter day for all of us here. We have enjoyed ourselves and gathered wisdom, which will show us our way on the days ahead. On behalf of the Student Council of Phillips School of Education, representing the entire school body, I, Arush Roy, present Professor Kaushik Basu with a memento which we have made ourselves. We hope that Sir likes
Oh, lovely, actually. Very well done. Wonderful. You are one of the artists.
that artist Ali.
Okay, very nice. Wonderful. Huh?
This picture secures.
Yeah, they do it. That's what I'm saying. It's amazing. I wish you did a bit more hair, but that is not your choice. Oh, sugar. Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Very nice. It's very rare for anyone to like one's own portrait, but I like it. Very nice.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, there's another one. Too. Oh, I thought that's just about carrying.
No, no. It's not about Meenakshi. So it's Meenakshi.
Who's got this?
Meenakshi dances and this is Alu dance.
Beautiful. Very beautiful. I've got lots of art in my house. I think this will happen. Both of them. Yeah. Something natural then, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you will get bored of listening to me because you will again listen to me in the evening. But what should I say? Just that I feel very revived and hopeful. In fact, my hope for India goes up every time I visit London. That we are doing something right, and out of this will come better time. And I should always again stress that it's not just India. We want India to do well in order to contribute to a better world. We want the world to be a better place and to contribute to that with ideas and everything. And I feel hopeful. I should just tell you that at this stage of your career in school, there will be good times and bad times. And in bad times, we all feel, I mean, I have memories of my time as a student in school and college when the world seems dark. You really feel that how will we come out of this? But you have to keep up and you should remember that also if you have a larger concern, that it's not just you, there are other people that you're thinking about, you're concerned about. In some ways, it actually helps you. So there is a self-help in there, but it also contributes to society. So let me just stop with that over here. Thank you very much. The question and answer, the interaction was lovely. And this, I wish I get this kind of an interaction in other places. So thank you very much, all of you. Okay.
Gratitude is the most exquisite form of service. I, Angelia from class 9, feel privileged to have been given the opportunity to propose the vote of thanks. This wonderful afternoon, we all have gathered in to celebrate knowledge and the spirit of inquiry. We have the privilege of hosting Professor Kaushik Basu. Sir, there may be different words of thank you in different languages, but the feeling is universal. Our gratitude to you is boundless. First, I would like to thank our distinguished patron and mentor, Professor Kaushik Basu. Sir, we feel blessed to have you as the which guides us in the right path and also lights up the path to the future. Your contribution in our lives is immense and will remain so. We thank our distinguished guests, Mrs. Hilda Peacock, Mr. Sarat Prasad Namhata, Mr. Shamur Bagji, Mr. Parthipratim Roy, Mr. Kalyan Banerjee, Mr. Manu Yagni, Mr. Amitabh Gupta, and Dr. Ashish from the bottom of our hearts. Our teachers and mentors have touched our lives in numerous ways. Thank you, Ranjana ma'am and Bharti ma'am, for every support. I cannot thank our head of school, Miss Ruma Gunyogi, enough for her contribution in the final years of school. Thank you, ma'am, for your positivity. My words of gratitude would not even start through the job in thanking the teachers of physics, who has been a constant source of inspiration, motivation, support, and a guidance to the hundreds of children of Felix. We have been grown to be such confident young people only because of your love and care, and sure will be the sweetest fruit of your effort to society. Last but not the least, I thank all the students and their parents who are the very reason we are here celebrating this most important milestone for our institution. I once again thank everyone for making this program a great success. Finally, I would like to close my program by reciting a sloka from Suprasita Ratna with something this school written. Nature Hamaran, Nature Raja Hamaran, Nahatri Bhajam, Nature Bharatar. Where is the Vardadeli Permission? Vidyarjan, the Vajna Pradhan, cannot be snatched away by the rock, cannot be snatched away by the king, cannot be divided amongst the brethren. Not heavy to carry, keep spending, it always keeps growing. The weight of knowledge is the most precious wealth amongst everything. Have a blessed day.